Good morning. Welcome to chapel. Welcome to those of you who have been in this space many times, and to those of you who are here for the first time, to those of you here in the chapel and those of you joining us online. We're grateful that you chose to spend this hour with us. Every year, we have at least one or sometimes two services in which we focus on supervised ministry. We usually invite a supervisor and someone who is doing their supervised ministry to come and lead us in chapel. And we offer this also as a space for those of you who are doing supervised ministry or imagining it in the future, to reflect on the ways that God is moving through this space, and just to reflect on an opportunity for teaching and learning together. So I'm grateful that the Grief House is here. First of all, I want to extend my gratitude to Contextual Education and International Partnerships Office for suggesting that we bring the Grief House here and for supporting all of our supervised ministry students. We are grateful to have Executive Director Sasha Demersion here. I got it right, Sasha Demersion. And also our student Kelly McKelvey, who has been doing her supervised ministry there, and they will lead us in chapel today. A reminder that this evening you are invited to come here at 5:15 p.m. We will be joining with our student, our sibling, Nisha Gargard, as he remembers and joins in grief and celebration of the life of his father, Moses Gargard. So invite all of you who are able to be here for that service to come here at 5:15 p.m. this evening. Grateful to International Student Association and our Student Government Association who are planning and leading that service. And then on Friday, we have an opportunity to welcome our partners from Cuba, Reverend Dr. Ari Fernandez Alban and Reverend Dr. Beatty, his spouse. They'll be here in chapel leading us. So invite you to come and offer hospitality and learn from them about their work at Matanzas Seminary in Cuba. And now let us worship God.
Hello. Thank you for having me here. It's nice to see the faces in front of me, and I'm glad that other folks can join us remotely. I am one of the co-founders of the Grief House. We started this, me and my high school best friend, Laura Green, started dreaming this up about 8 years ago. We both had gone through significant periods of loss. We didn't feel anchored in a faith community. We didn't have a third place, a place where we could go and be unmasked and present with our loss. And Laura was telling me, she's like, I just want to go and get my hands in the dirt and cry and not have people ask me why I'm crying and not try to fix it and not just but be with me. She didn't want to be alone. And so we started talking about how could we buy a farm? And it was like, actually, that's not something we can do straight away. So we were, what could we do? And this is, January of 2020. So we all know what was coming after that. She lived in Portland, Oregon, still does. And at the time, I lived in Chicago. And so I thought, I'm going to help my friends build this, and they'll do it in Portland where they have some space. She had her mother's house. Of note, a special interest potentially here, she was raised by a former nun, and not many people can claim that. So this elderly former nun had this big old house, and of course she wanted it to be of service. So she was really happy to share her home and her last few years with people who were grieving. So it was really beautiful. So we, of course, got the wheels in motion and then started everything online for a year and a half. And that's how we began. Our mission is about weaving loss into life. Instead of trying to find a fix or an end, we're looking for ways to incorporate and integrate loss. Because when we try to look for a fix and we're so afraid of the pain of it, often we try to rush it. We have people feeling like they're doing it wrong and then seeking into isolation and not looking for help. we also feel like we miss out on the benefits, the wisdom, the sacredness of loss and being really, really present with it. And in community, having that shared, having that seen, and being held and not rejected in your times of loss and pain. Further, maybe not being given advice or asked probing questions in those moments too. So we build spaces that are, we have community collaborators who offer all kinds of advice, from ways to reflect on what, our own processing. We have like Dismantling Whiteness group coming up. We have also the potluck dinners where people come and talk about their losses. So, and then we have creative events and playful events. And we try to, create as many types of offerings as we can to meet the very individualized needs that people might have, so that you can put together your own array of offerings that will suit you. And because we all are different, and we're all arriving at a different place. Some of us are raw in our grief. We've had folks come a week out from a really significant loss. And that can look really different than someone who's like, I feel like my grief is kind of stuck. I can't access it. And that also looks different from someone who's like, I'm 3 years out. I lost my husband 3 years ago, and I feel like I'm doing it wrong because I feel even worse now. And that's one of the hardest things, and I heard someone say this last week. And I don't know if you all are familiar with, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's The 5 Stages of Grief. And I'd like any opportunity to say that she did this work, and it was really important work, but she did it with folks who were dying. And so those stages are about facing your own mortality and the grief process for those folks. And she spent the rest of her career trying to shout out, like, that's not for grievers. Because everyone's just taking it like, I'm not moving through the stages, right? I'm still stuck, and it's non-linear. And so it is non-linear. And sometimes 3 years out, 7 years out, it's like, so we're working on creating opportunities for people to integrate, to be present with, and to express it, and not just wish it away. And we take these lessons from, we rely a lot on the wisdom of nature. And natural cycles, they know what to do with loss. If you look at an old-growth forest, it doesn't clean up unsightly fallen trees or, carcasses. It's useful for growth. And in our human constructed world, so often we're worried about, tidying it up. All right, that's done now. We have 3 days of bereavement, and now we're all set. And we're working within this system, this larger system, but we're trying to create pockets where we, at least for a minute, don't have to do that. So that's what we're doing. Looking at the time. And I would love to, I'll say just a couple more things about my personal journey, and then I'm going to invite Callie up. So in some ways, I think I wanted to create this space for my mother. My mother died in 2020, and she and I were estranged for about a decade before that. She was a brilliant, beautiful, and deeply hurt person who was running from her hurt her whole life and ran into alcohol and drugs. And it was heartbreaking, and I wanted her to, I realize now that's my deep personal calling, is to create a space where people can come and be messy and find community. Yes. So that's what brought me here. So thank you. Thank you for listening. I'm glad to be here. And I'm going to hand it over to Kelly to say her few words.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Callie. I'm in my second year of the dual degree program, and I'm so excited to get to be a part of bringing the Grief House to the Columbia community today. I spent this past summer doing my supervised ministry at the Grief House, and I genuinely can't speak highly enough about the work they're doing or the people involved. And it was also immensely helpful for me in discerning my own vocational calling. A decent portion of the work I hope to do eventually is interfaith, involving helping people recover from religious trauma, and if interested, explore what feels spiritually and religiously safe moving forward. For someone from an evangelical background, you can imagine how unnatural that might be. To be looking at working with people in search of spiritual truth and to not be evangelizing. But when religious trauma and church hurt are involved, healing and safety have to be the goal. And those things cannot take place where there exists a greater agenda. So knowing all of this, I knew I needed experience in an inner or multi-faith space, as well as in grief work. And both of those I found in the Grief House. Through grief groups, shared meals, and conversation, I got to hear stories from people of Jewish faith, of Christian faith, from agnostics and atheists and the unaffiliated, from witches and Wiccans, from people getting back in touch with their indigenous spiritualities. And several things have stuck with me about these people. One is that grief is universal. And one of the ways in which it's universal is that just about wherever you place yourself spiritually, grief will shape your theology to its core. Another is that as these people came to grieve, they also came to give. They offered their stories, yes, but they also offered their resources. We just heard Sasha speak of the philosophy the Grief House is built around, that just as death and loss in nature bring forth life, maybe our own experiences of death and loss can do the same. And that is exactly what I saw. These people desired to, through their own pain and loss, help other people. Healing begets healing. Yes. And that was a beautiful thing to witness. A part of my job at the Grief House was making our monthly calendars, and the difference in the number of variety of offerings and gatherings and groups we had just between June and August was staggering. As more grief is met, more grief is able to be met. That's what makes the Grief House such a striking community, I think. The relationship is almost always reciprocal. You give, and you receive. You give, and you receive. The Grief House, though not a church, might be a better church than any I've been a part of. I've had a couple of people ask me about how I could be comfortable working in an interfaith environment. Especially in the context of church hurt or chaplaincy, how could I be comfortable attempting to meet someone's spiritual needs without trying to lead them to the Christian faith? And I didn't have the words until my experience at the Grief House gave them to me. I believe in a God who is big enough and compassionate enough to make God's self known to people in whatever ways they need, to meet them where they are, to show up in the moments, in the magic they experience. And if I believe God does that, I'm going to try to do that as well. That is the lens through which I'm now able to view my vocation, and without my time at the Grief House, I wouldn't really know that. So thank you, Sasha, in the Grief House, for allowing me to witness and participate in the sacred work you're doing in our community. And thank you, Dr. Park and Reverend Alvin and the CEIP office for making this supervised ministry possible. I am indebted to all of you. Thanks.
Thank you. That was beautiful to hear. I'm going to share one more thing, which is taking us a little bit off, but I feel called to. And then I'm going to invite everyone for a little interactive writing or contemplation prompt moment with some music. Something that has been really on my mind, and I was like, I'm going to start with this morning, but I was like, I don't think I have time, is refugia. And I hadn't heard this particular word until recently, and now it's all I can think about. And I already talked about how we take our lessons from nature. We really rely on that wisdom. And for those of you who don't know, refugia refers to geographical areas that act as sanctuaries for species, communities, or even physical resources during periods of environmental stress, allowing populations to survive and later repopulate an area once conditions improve. Francis Weller, who wrote The Wild Edge of Sorrow, which is a book I love, and I love his work, he talked about what to do now, right now in this moment, and he talked about offering refugia. And I think this can happen in so many different places, in so many different communities, and it's what Callie, I think, noted that we're trying to do at the Grief House here in Portland and virtually, and support other communities offering refugia during a time where things feel overwhelming and we can't necessarily fight the flood or the fire, but we can offer sanctuary and support for what's to come. Okay, I have to get that in. So, thank you. All right, now I'd like to invite you for it could be if you have something to write with, a writing prompt, and for those of you, joining us virtually, we'd love for you to participate as well in the way that feels right to you. I'd like to invite you to reflect on a time where you were in service to others and you felt like you were resourced and steady. Just bring that to mind. I'd also like to invite you to reflect on a time when you felt unsteady, perhaps under-resourced. Finding a good enough fit here works. Just call them to mind, kind of each in one hand. Call them to your mind and heart, and just let them both be. If you want to do some writing or some contemplating for the next couple of moments while we listen to some music from Laura Beth, please.
When my body won't hold me anymore, and it finally lets me free, will I be ready? When my feet won't walk another mile, and my lips give their last kiss goodbye, my hands be steady when I lay down my fears, my hopes and my doubts, the rings on my fingers, and the keys to my house with no hard feelings. When the sun hangs low in the west and the light in my chest jealousy fades away and its ash and dust, caps and lights, so much to have and hold. Lord knows they haven't done much good for anyone, kept me afraid and cold, so much to have and hold. When my body won't hold me anymore and it finally lets me free, where will I go? Will the trade winds take me south through Georgia gray, tropical rain, or snow from the heavens, and walk through the night straight to the light, holding the love I've known in my life with no hard feelings. Lord knows they haven't done much good for anyone, kept me afraid and cold, so much to have and hold. It matters for me and you to say it and mean it too, for life and its loveliness and all of its ugliness, good as it's been to me, I have no enemy. Oh, hard feelings. No hard
I could invite us all just to take a couple of breaths after that. Maybe a deeper breath than you just found yourself in, just connecting with this moment. And in this space, I'd like to invite some shares here. Some folks, if anyone wants to share about their experience, perhaps something that came up during this contemplation, but perhaps also people wanting to share about their internship or service, reflections on the experience, the benefits. I think we would love to hear from a handful of folks.
We should have a handheld mic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and we'll pass that mic around. So, let's see. Would anyone like to share their experiences with their internship? Any reflections on holding space? One thing that I've gotten good at is waiting. Because sometimes, there's that like, should I say something? I don't know. No one else is saying anything. I know you don't have to. It's not like I'm going to go around and call on people. But I will give us another few seconds just to see if more of the thing that's holding you back is just not being sure if, you know, any of the social stuff. If you have something you'd like to say, give it another second. Oh, we have someone back that way, going over here.
So I work in youth ministry, which is, I feel like, always under-budgeted, under-resourced. And most youth workers are woefully unprepared. This student in particular witnessed something really traumatic. And you know that trauma doesn't care who you are and how much money you make or where you come from. This student witnessed his family member try to kill themselves. So I was woefully and sufficiently underprepared and lacked training. But I was able to refer out and encourage the student to get involved in counseling and to get involved with a psychiatrist to see what the options were for them. And as the student began to recover with medication and counseling and saw their growth, the parent checked themselves into counseling and began their own journey of healing. So God works. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but God comes to bring life and life abundant.
Greetings all. I'll start with a thank you for Dr. Park and Reverend Langenfelter for the amass of their just leadership. So I had, over the last two summers, I've had amazing experiences, not just with my supervised ministry where I was able to get planted into First Presbyterian Peachtree under Dr. Tony Sunmeyer. And that experience was life-impacting, such that I'm still engaged and still active in some of their activities with their outreach and community ministries. And then for my CPE assignment at Emory Midtown, it was transformative. Such that opportunities for me not only to give back, but the experiences as a minister to be able to learn more about me and to experience the fact that God has a mission field waiting for us. Definitely I felt like I am better equipped, still on that path to learning, but the opportunities that have been afforded here at CTS for us to be mandated, which I think is glorious, as an MDiv student to participate in, to take the unit of CPE as well as supervised ministry. Don't ever take that away as a requirement for the divinity degree. So I am grateful, grateful.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Anyone else feeling called to share before we? Thank you both for sharing. And I know there's a lot of stories from folks joining us virtually and other stories that are, they're holding. And I just like to take a moment and honor those, all these opportunities for learning and connection and practicing, being in the community and in different kinds of communities. And it does take practice. And these types of opportunities, like you say, that they're mandated. Not many things that are mandated are like, yay! But sometimes people do drag their feet with like, you have to go do this now, and it's so useful. Okay. With that in mind, I'd like to offer, as we begin to close here, a little meditation offering for you all. And then we will lead into some, a little more music before we I'll be available if anyone has any questions or wants to talk, but I also live across the street because Grief House is at Legacy Park. So, like staring right at us, yeah. And, okay, so now for this offering. Some people like to close their eyes. If you would, you're welcome to it. If you'd like to keep your eyes open, that's fine too. Whatever feels better in your body. And just take a moment to maybe adjust, notice how you're sitting. Sometimes when we're listening and we're in a headspace, when we start to notice our bodies, we're like, oh yeah, my back is kind of sore, or like I uncrossed my legs in a while. So just take a moment to acknowledge that you have a human body and find a little bit of peace with that. And just allow your breath to do its thing, to offer you the resources that it does continually without even noticing. And allow that to maybe deepen for a moment. And I would like to invite you to imagine and call to mind those two scenarios that we brought to mind for our contemplation prompt. Those two times when we were in service, and one of them we felt resourced and steady, and a time when maybe unsteady and maybe under-resourced. Just holding them there without judgment, just allowing them to take up space, to be a part of your story. I'd like to invite you to send them both love, compassion, and grace, allowing them to be. And recognizing that both are important for learning and connection. So perhaps, even if it was a painful lesson, and maybe one we're still learning, to have some gratitude for the opportunity to do that learning. If there is a piece of this, potentially about your feelings or your own judgment, that you'd like to release, maybe to make way for compassion and gratitude, I invite you to take the next moments while we listen to some more music. To reflect on that, to name that to yourself, and to release it. is something that we like to think of practicing on like all of our cellular and community levels. And that is with our inhale, we welcome, all is welcome. And when we exhale, we set it all free. It's free. Welcome and free. Take a few more breaths here. Welcoming, setting free. And on your next exhale, we'll come to a close. And I'm not sure if this is the time to share that we have, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, share. Okay.
Yes, I would really like. So I wanted to share an invitation. If this time has been a blessing, which I know it has been for me, on October 22nd, our Wellness Wednesday activity will be a visit to the Grief House. So I invite you to put that on your calendar. We'll probably head over a little bit before 3 and just have an experience in the location, get our bodies in the room, because there's nothing quite like being in a space to experience. But I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that you're personally invited. We would love to be able to have some time of reflecting together. And Sasha, thank you so much for the gift. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you all so much for this opportunity. It's been a real pleasure to be here, and I hope to connect with you all. And what a lovely start to Tuesday. So, thank you.